Morning, everyone. Can you hear audio? If you can, please just raise your hand. So, good morning. In today's info session, we're going to discuss the Help Me Grow Los Angeles Pathway solicitation. Before we begin, we want to address a few housekeeping items. All callers will remain muted throughout this presentation. At the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. We ask participants to use the question function, not the chat box. We will not, well, I did just ask you to use the hand raising function, but during the session, we will not be using it. To ensure that we do not have any audio difficulties, we ask that you mute your phone or your microphone, computer microphone. This webinar will be recorded and posted on our funding center where the RFP is posted. We will begin our session today with introductions of our team. Hi everyone, my name is Daisy Ortiz. I'm the Contract Compliance Officer for this project.
I'm Ann Isbell, Program Officer in the Health Systems Department.
And I'm Christina Pena, Senior Program Officer with Health Systems Department.
And in addition to today's informational session on the RFP, we also strongly encourage you or a representative from your agency to join an upcoming networking event to meet other interested partners in the community you serve and participate in interactive activities that will simulate the experience of being a part of a Help Me Grow LA Pathways Collaborative. We are hosting the first networking, we are hosting our first networking event in Wilmington on Wednesday, October 9th, and Pacoima, Thursday, October 10th. First 5 LA will host 5 networking events, 1 event in each of the 7 communities we intend to have the Help Me Grow LA Pathway Collaborative in. To RSVP for the networking event, step 1, identify community number based on the zip code, which see the attached map. And 2, fill out the RSVP form and select the community number based on the zip code. On your screen, you should see an overview of the topics we're going to discuss during this presentation today. We will walk you through the application process, including how to submit, and we will close with questions and answers. We are noticing some questions that some people can't hear us, so we're going to pause for a second to work on the audio.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
We're going to start from the beginning due to the audio issues. So bear with us. For those that heard a little bit, those that didn't, yay. I see you can hear us. So in today's info session, we are going to discuss the Help Me Grow Los Angeles Pathways solicitation. Before we begin, we would want to address a few housekeeping items. All callers will remain muted throughout the presentation. At the end of the session, we will have a question and answer session. We ask participants to use the question function, not the chat box, and we will not be using the hand raising function. To ensure that we don't have any more audio difficulties, we ask you to mute your phone or computer microphone. This webinar will be recorded and posted on our funding center where this RFP is posted. We want to begin our sessions with introductions of our team. Hi, my name is Daisy Ortiz, and I'm the Contract Compliance Officer for this project.
And Isabel, Program Officer in our Health Systems Department.
And Christina Pena, Senior Program Officer with our Health Systems Department.
In addition to today's informational session on the RFP, we also strongly encourage you or a representative from our agency to join an upcoming networking event to meet other interested partners in the community you serve and participate in the interactive activities that will simulate the experience of being part of a Help Me Grow LA Pathways Collaborative. We are hosting the first networking event in Wilmington on Wednesday, October 9th, and Pacoima, Thursday, October 10th. First 5 LA will host 7 networking events, 1 event in each of the 7 communities we intend to have a Help Me Grow LA Pathways Collaborative in. To RSVP for the networking event, we have 2 steps. The first one is to identify the community number based on the zip codes, which if you see this document, these are all the zip codes. And step 2 is to fill out the RSVP Help Me Grow Pathways interest and networking form and select the community based on zip code. You can also review this form in additional detail through Appendix A. On your screen, you will see an overview of what we're going to discuss during this presentation. We will then walk you through the application process, including how to submit the proposal, and we will close with the question and answer section. So a little background information on First 5 LA for those of you who are not familiar. First 5 LA is a public agency established in 1998 following the passage. Yes, you will receive a copy of the presentation. It will be posted on our funding site. In 1998, following the passage of Prop 10 by California voters, which is a state tax on cigarettes, we are a funder, collaborator, and advocate focused on supporting children prenatal through age 5. We prioritize this age as it is a critical window of time given that 90% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 5. As part of First 5 LA's 2015 to 2020 strategic plan, First 5 LA is focused on 4 key outcome areas to maximize our impact, to strengthen families, and to improve the outcomes for the greater number of children ages 0 to 5 in LA County, which are listed on the slide above. And now that we have completed providing you an overview of First 5 LA, I want to pass the stage to my colleague Christina, who will provide you with background on some of our efforts in early identification and intervention.
Thank you, Daisy. Under our health systems outcome area, our team is focused on two key strategies. The first strategy, strategy 1, is focused on improving early identification and intervention, or as we fondly refer to, EII, for young children with or at risk for developmental and behavioral delays. The second strategy is our Trauma Resiliency Informed Systems Change work, or TRISC for short, which is focused on trauma-informed care. The Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment is directly linked to strategy 1, early identification and intervention. And it's a significant first step in investing toward implementing Help Me Grow LA in LA County. In subsequent slides, I will provide greater context on the Help Me Grow framework. We strongly believe strengthening early identification and intervention for young children to reach their optimal development contributes to First 5 LA's North Star that by 2028, all children will enter kindergarten ready to succeed in school and in life. We also recognize strengthening EII for young children also aligns and contributes to many other county agencies and departments' mission and objectives, as well as target population and service delivery priorities. Next, I will provide context about EII in California, First 5 LA's history investing in EII, and provide a brief overview of the Help Me Grow model. So, why do we care about this work? Why is strengthening EII so critical at this time? The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that young children receive developmental surveillance during every well child visit, and all children under the age of 3 should be screened with a validated screening tool, for example, an Ages and Stages questionnaire, at 9 months, 18 months, and between 24 and 30 months. In addition, AAP recommends that children are also screened with an autism-specific tool between 18 and 24 months. Unfortunately, California is falling short with the standard. Approximately 15% of young children experience delays. However, only 3% receive early intervention services by age 3, and this is demonstrated in the visual on the far left. In an ideal world, we would see the same percentage of children who experience the delay also accessing appropriate intervention services and supports. So if 50% of the population show a need, we expect to work collectively toward ensuring 15% of this population can access services and supports. According to the 2018 California Children's Report Card, only 1 in 5 children actually receive a timely developmental screening, and this has ranked California 43rd in the nation for screening infants and toddlers. Furthermore, toddlers not eligible for traditional early intervention, which are often children who fall in the gray zone, can still benefit from supportive services and supports, including their families. These supports are often referred to as prevention services, and these can include educational resources and activities to foster healthy development. A national study by UCLA Department of Pediatrics found that 1/4 of 2-year-olds that are not eligible for traditional early intervention end up also not being ready for school, which begs the question, how can we better connect young children at risk and their families to appropriate resources and supports in their communities to better support their child's healthy development? Moving on, beyond our current First 5 LA 2015 and 2020 strategic plan that Daisy described earlier in the presentation, First 5 LA has a long history supporting developmental screenings and linkage to early intervention supports and services. Please refer to Appendix B for more detail on each of these investments that have spanned from 2005 to present day. Each investment has fostered partnerships and learning, all of which has contributed to the planning and implementation of Help Me Grow. Now, a little more about the Help Me Grow model. Help Me Grow as a model is a system, not a program, that works to promote timely access to developmental screenings and linkage to early intervention services for children at risk for and with developmental and behavioral delays. The model centers on fostering local cross-sector collaboration and coordination among existing resources and systems. Help Me Grow is not meant to replace a system, but rather is the glue or the binding to better connect systems that help children reach their optimal development. The visual to the left shows the 4 core components of the model. Starting with the red component is the centralized access point. Moving clockwise is the community and family outreach, which LA planning members retitled as community and family engagement for the Help Me Grow LA model. We also have the child health provider outreach, and last, the data collection and analysis component. Please refer to Appendix C for additional information on the Help Me Grow components. In addition to the 4 core components, the model also relies on having an organizing entity that acts as a backbone agency, supporting with implementation and providing administrative and fiscal management for long-term sustainability. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health serves as the organizing entity for Help Me Grow LA, and since July 2018, the Department of Public Health staff and First 5 LA have been working closely to implement Help Me Grow LA. As you can see from the color coding visual, this helps illustrate our partnership with the Department of Public Health. The Department of Public Health is serving to lead the 2 components highlighted in blue, and First 5 LA is serving as the lead for the 2 components highlighted in pink. The Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment is a significant step in implementing part of this Help Me Grow model, and I will now pass it to Anne, who will provide background and overview.
Thank you, Christina. One of the major recommendations from our 2017 planning report was to adopt an incremental approach to Help Me Grow LA to test and refine strategies before scaling countywide. This will allow us to ready the landscape for the implementation of Help Me Grow LA. This recommendation is the origin of Help Me Grow LA Pathways. It was through data analysis, system exploration, engagement with key stakeholders over the past 2 years that we decided to focus on strengthening referral pathways. Please refer to Appendix C for additional context about recommendations for Help Me Grow LA. Early identification and intervention, or EII, is not one system but involves multiple systems and sectors. For instance, the key sectors listed on this slide all play a role in providing screenings, assessment, care coordination, and intervention services. We know these key sectors often operate in silos, and for many families, it's difficult to seek and navigate services. As a result, far too many children are not accessing intervention services early enough. This visual illustrates a non-exhaustive list of today's current landscape in which the referral pathways are not linked or well coordinated. Help Me Grow LA's Pathways aims to move from this status quo to a new paradigm, where the referral pathways in a community are more coordinated, integrated, and multi-directional. The Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment aims to bring diverse partners together in a community to strengthen and expand referral pathways through technology, infrastructure, and practice change. Each community is charged with identifying, selecting, and testing strategies. Examples of approaches that First 5 LA will support include establishing a multi-agency referral form and developing electronic referral form. Examples of unsupported approaches include funding direct services and strategies that impact only a sole agency's operations. Other examples are presented on page 15 of the RFP. This is a non-exhaustive list. Proposers can select from the list of supported approaches or identify other innovative approaches not listed but aligned with the scope of the project and intended goals. Approaches are to be approved by First 5 LA prior to beginning implementation. When fully implemented, Help Me Grow LA Pathways will overlap with LA County's 7 regional center catchment areas to ensure countywide reach. The intent is that Help Me Grow LA Pathways, through the testing of innovative approaches, will lead to improved communication and tracking, reduction in wait times, decrease in the age at which children are referred to services and begin services, increase in successful referrals on first attempt, and increase in parent-caregiver satisfaction with referral process and linkage to services. By achieving this, we are contributing to our North Star that by 2028, all children in LA County will enter kindergarten ready to succeed in school and life. Looking at the image on the left, Each of the Help Me Grow LA Pathways communities will have one unifying agency that will subcontract with multiple collaborative agencies that deliver one or more EII services to a high volume of children and thus can provide direct support to strengthen EII referral pathways. The number of collaborative agencies should be representative of the diverse sectors that work across the EII continuum, which is on the right, and comprehensive in terms of having the experience, background, and decision-making power to make changes in the referral pathways in the community. Looking at the image on the right, unifying agency and collaborative agencies are part of the EII continuum of services and should be positioned with the relationships, skills, and capacities needed to test and refine strategies to more efficiently connect young children to screenings, care coordination, prevention supports, and early intervention services. In addition, the unifying and collaborative agencies will confer with supporting partners. These supporting partners are not subcontractors on the Help Me Grow LA Pathways project and are not expected to test strategies. They are tasked with providing feedback to inform planning, implementation, and sustainability of strategies. Supporting partners should include organizations involved in coordinating and delivering services and supports for families with young children. Supporting partners should include community residents so that families of those utilizing EII services are represented. First 5 LA anticipates funding up to 7 Help Me Grow LA Pathways unifying agencies across the county to strengthen referral pathways between service sectors. It is expected that the unifying agencies are a part of the EII continuum, have a community-level presence in the catchment area that they are applying to, and a deep understanding of that community's EII landscape. This project is comprised of 3 phases. In phase 1, the convening of unifying collaborative agencies. And supporting partners will result in identified project needs and the selection, development, and prioritization of innovative approaches that address each community's project needs. This work will be inclusive of partnership building to establish a deeper analysis of referral pathways, including barriers to timely and effective linkage to services, and consensus building regarding approaches to address identified barriers to referrals that will benefit the collaborative. This stage will also include a data collection plan aligned to identified approaches. In phase 2, the approaches that each community selects in phase 1 will enter the implementation stage within the Help Me Grow LA Pathways communities. This work includes cross-sector planning, adoption of approaches, and coaching to ensure successful implementation. In phase 3, unifying and collaborative agencies will refine approaches based on data collected and evaluation to ensure improved coordination and functioning and increase timely access from developmental and behavioral screening to assessment to early intervention supports for children and families. This phase will include increased sustainability planning, including, if appropriate, scale and spread of successful approaches. While the focus and time frame for each phase of this 3-year project will differ, to ensure progress across the phases, there should be an emphasis on the following throughout the course of the project: ongoing data collection and documentation of activities and lessons learned, cross-community learning and best practice exchange between Help Me Grow LA Pathways communities, sustainability planning from the start to identify how to sustain the approaches once First 5 LA funding has ended. I will now turn it over to Christina to discuss the scope of work.
Thank you, Anne. Next, I will provide an overview of the distinct roles and functions of each of the entities that comprise the Help Me Grow Pathways investment, or also support the Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment. Starting with First 5 LA, our role in this project is to support and manage the 7 contracts with each unifying agency, as well as the contract with the technical assistance provider to ensure project success. In addition, First 5 LA will also elevate and share learnings across the unifying agencies, provide guidance on how to message Help Me Grow LA, and bridge connections to other First 5 LA and county investments. In addition, First 5 LA will share progress and findings with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health to further inform the implementation of Help Me Grow LA, including identifying opportunities for alignment and integration between Help Me Grow LA pathways and the 4 core components of the Help Me Grow model. Next, a technical assistance provider will offer additional support to all 7 unifying agencies and the Help Me Grow LA pathways communities at large, with achieving their roles and responsibilities and meeting the intended outcomes of this investment. For example, regional learning is outlined as a function of the collaborative, and the TA will help participating agencies incorporate the use of data, regular reflection, and learning into their daily practices. There will be a separate request for qualifications for a TA provider for the Help Me Grow LA Pathways communities. We anticipate the RFQ for the TA provider to be released in fall 2019. Please note that a unifying agency, collaborative agency, or supporting partner cannot serve as the TA provider. This means agencies must decide whether to apply to join a Help Me Grow LA Pathways community or apply as a TA provider. A proposer cannot apply to both the RFP and the TA provider RFQ simultaneously. All selected unifying agencies are required to collaborate with a selected TA provider, and unifying agencies will provide first by the way with feedback on the effectiveness of the TA provider. Next, I will provide greater detail about the roles and responsibilities of the unifying agency, collaborative agencies, and supporting partners, all which make up the Help Me Grow Pathways community. As a reminder, the unifying agency holds a contract with First 5LA, and therefore the unifying agency will have 2 additional distinct responsibilities highlighted in red beyond the collaborating agencies. While there is flexibility in who completes some of the roles and responsibilities between the unifying agency and the collaborative agencies, the roles and responsibilities which are highlighted in blue, the unifying agency cannot subcontract out the administrative oversight and the multi-level community coordination roles. Shared roles for both the unifying agency and the collaborative agencies include communication and outreach, regional learning, resource mobilization, piloting the identified strategies agreed upon by the collaborative, and functioning as a strategy design partner together. Again, as a reminder, it is up to the collaborative to determine how they wish to structure and advance these roles and activities among participating partners. The unifying agency and collaborative agencies can jointly share funding to execute these functions. The supporting partners will not be funded and serve solely as a strategy design partner to help inform and shape the Help Me Grow LA Pathways community design and planning, the strategy implementation, and the refinement period. For greater detail of these discrete roles, please turn to page 17 to 21 of the RFP. Next, I will pass it to Daisy to discuss eligibility requirements.
Yes. So starting with the eligibility requirements, the applicant must meet the following requirements presented on your screen. You must provide at least one of the services along the EII continuum, which has been defined as developmental or behavioral development identification, such as surveillance and screening, assessment, referral to developmental or behavioral intervention services, care coordination, case management, and or prevention of or intervention services for children with or at risk of delays. You must have a minimum of 5 years of operating as a legal entity and a minimum of 5 years successfully managing contracts, such as administration of contracts awarded to your agency, and 3 years of experience managing subcontracts. For example, overseeing the work that the agency has contracted with another agency or individual to perform. Please note that these requirements will be reviewed in level 1 review, and proposers that do not meet these requirements will not advance to the next level of review. So for summary of desired qualifications, and we'll discuss.
As listed on page 22 of the RFP, we have several desired qualifications for the unifying agency, including experience working with culturally and linguistically diverse groups, demonstrated commitment to community and family engagement, knowledge of the EII landscape in LA County, including existing referral pathways and barriers to providers and families in completing referrals, at least 3 years of experience delivering services on the EII continuum in the proposed catchment area and obtaining funding to deliver EII services, at least 3 years of experience working within the proposed Help Me Grow LA Pathways community catchment area, and demonstrated understanding of the core issues impacting EII services in that area, experience engaging in cross-sector collaboration to improve technology, infrastructure, and/or practice change, experience convening and/or communicating with a cross-sector of service providers to implement activities, programs, etc. In addition, as described on page 22 to 23 of the RFP, we have the following minimum requirements for collaborative agencies. You must be a legal entity, must have a physical location in LA County, must provide services on the EII continuum, and have the experience and/or qualifications to complete the assigned scope of work tasks. First 5 LA reserves the right to confirm compliance to the minimum guidelines for collaborative agencies. First 5 LA reserves the right to impose additional requirements for collaborative agencies through the life of the project, including recommending agencies. First 5 LA also recognizes that over the course of the project, there may be a need to add and/or remove agencies and partners to strengthen the collaborative to meet the goals of the project. First 5 LA may disapprove a proposed collaborative agency if they do not meet the guidelines above, are in non-compliant status with First 5 LA, or has breached a contract with First 5 LA. Current and former First 5 LA grantees, contractors, and vendors must be in good standing and compliant with all aspects of current and former agreements with First 5 LA in order to be eligible to serve as a collaborative agency. First 5 LA also reserves the right to recommend, approve, or disapprove all subcontractors. Daisy will now discuss the terms of the project.
Just a second. We did get a question regarding the roles of the unified agency, collaborative agency, and the supporting partners, and we will discuss that a little further before we move on.
So returning to, can we go back to slide 23? Returning to slide 23, it has a breakdown of the roles and responsibilities for the unifying agency, the collaborative agencies, and the supporting partners. There are both distinct and shared roles across the three. Starting back with the unifying agency does hold a contract with First 5 LA, and therefore will be responsible for the administrative oversight as well as multi-level community coordination across the Help Me Grow Pathway Collaborative. In addition, the unifying agency and collaborative agencies share the following activities or roles and responsibilities. It includes communication and outreach, regional learning, resource mobilization, coming together and agreeing on strategies to then pilot to strengthen referral pathways across the collaborative, as well as sharing a role in designing the strategy collectively. There are details in the RFP that outline what these shared roles mean and how we envision those contributing to the intended outcome. Please refer to those pages in the RFP. Lastly, the supporting partner, which will not be funded or will not necessarily access the funding, is there solely to support in the design, implementation, and refinement. So to give a tangible example, for example, the unifying collaborative agencies, we are assuming they are delivering some aspects of early identification and intervention services in the community. Perhaps the unifying agency is providing developmental screening, but not providing prevention services or intervention services. They are partnering with their collaborative agencies in the community who do provide intervention services. They're using funding together to strengthen referrals across participating partners, whereas the supporting partner may be parents or caregivers who are benefiting and using services. They may include municipality, representatives from the local cities that the collaborative is functioning or targeting. It may include partners that are not providing early identification and intervention, but are invested in early childhood. For example, an agency that may be focused on nutrition, focuses on nutrition for children and families, but is not providing early identification and intervention for developmental delays. They have expertise, they work with families, they're in the community. They would be an ideal partner to play a role as a supporting partner and inform the strategy and implementation of this investment. So I hope that provides some clarity. Happy to answer further questions at the end of the presentation. So let's return back to terms of the project.
So this project does have a 12-month agreement with each selected unifying agency. The anticipated start date is July 1st, 2020. The project term is up to 3 years. It is the intent that the approaches are sustainable after the 3-year First 5 LA investment, but First 5 does reserve the right to extend beyond the 3-year period. This project will have a cost reimbursement agreement, and in a cost reimbursement agreement, grantees will be reimbursed through monthly invoices based on services rendered and actual expenses incurred. It is expected that the proposed budget is clearly justified in the budget narrative and will be appropriate for the work proposed. The final scope of work and budget will be negotiated with each selected unifying agency and is subject to approval by First 5 LA's Board of Commissioners. We ask that grantees anticipate a sufficient cash flow to support a 90-day billing cycle. The estimated total project budget is $450,000 per Help Me Grow LA Pathway community, and First 5 LA will not fund a proposer more than 30% of their annual budget, which will be negotiated during the contracting with each selected grantee. The 30% threshold does not include First 5 LA funding that may have been awarded to the proposer under a previous funding opportunity. Of the available funding, it is anticipated that a sizable portion of the budget will be allocated for piloting the collaborative identified strategies. As far as budget breakdown, we anticipate that for phase 1, up to 20% of the $450,000 is allocated, which means $90,000. Phase 2, at a minimum, does require 50% of the budget to be preserved, and for phase 3, up to 30% of the budget is allocated. Any excess funds not used in phase 1 can be applied to the rest of the phases. The purpose of our funding is to support advances that participating agencies' traditional budget are typically not able to fund. First 5 LA requirement is that funding awarded via this RFP be used for technology, infrastructure, and or practice transformation strategies to strengthen and expand the referral pathways. First 5 LA funding for this project is not intended to support direct services, and First 5 LA funding will not supplant any existing services, personnel, or maintenance financed by federal, state, or local resources. During this project, or project term, the selected unifying agencies are expected to demonstrate consideration of how other funds, such as local, state, or federal, can be leveraged.
So First 5 LA recognizes local, state, and federal funding often contribute to delivering early identification intervention services and supports for specific populations, or this funds EII activities delivered by specific agencies. So for example, EPSDT, the Early and Periodic Screening, Diagnostic, and Treatment Benefit, provides comprehensive and preventative health care services for children under age 21 who are enrolled in Medicaid. Other funding examples may include Medi-Cal administrative activities, targeted case management, and child find as some examples. However, these are solely meant as examples and not an exhaustive list, and we encourage agencies to explore local, state, and federal funding beyond the examples outlined on the slide. By design, the Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment is meant to enhance and strengthen access for children and families to EII services across agencies by focusing on strengthening the referral pathways. We expect the unifying agencies to work with the collaborative agencies to identify opportunities for Help Me Grow LA Pathway funding to enhance or complement existing EII services and activities that are independently funded by federal, state, or local funds.
Participating agencies are also expected to contribute to the Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment through in-kind support, such as staff time, materials, physical space, etc., and or leverage local, state, and federal funds, as described by Christina. It is our assumption that participating agencies are already providing or have existing funding for early identification, care coordination, support, and or intervention services for young children ages 0 to 5, and proposers should consider alignment of similar projects to the objective of this RFP. Speaking about accountability, it is expected that all parties involved are collectively accountable for achieving the outcomes identified in the RFP, and therefore all parties are expected to hold themselves accountable and each other accountable for the respective roles that the different parties play in achieving success. Ultimately, however, it is the unifying agency that is accountable for managing all parties in the Help Me Grow LA Pathway community. As far as selection process and review criteria, this solicitation has 4 levels of review. The first one is administrative review, which looks at the proposals for completeness and minimum requirements. We also conduct a due diligence review that includes a review of the litigation and contract compliance form. We look at whether the proposer has been placed in a non-compliant status by First 5 LA under any existing or past agreements with First 5, and First 5 does reserve the right to request additional information if needed to validate eligibility and or minimum requirements. Under level 2, financial review, Proposers that pass level 1 will then proceed to level 2. We will review the following documents to ensure the financial capacity of the proposers. We are asking for financial audit for fiscal year 2017 through 2018 or calendar year 2018, or 2 years of audited financial statements with 2 years of Form 990s, no older, or 990s, no older than 2017. If first 5 identifies any concerns as a result of reviewing the proposer's financial documents, the proposer may be required to submit additional information. Proposers who fail to submit any additional information required will be reviewed based on the documents provided at the time of the application. Proposers will not advance to the next level of review if at least one of the following apply. All could apply, but at a minimum, we're looking for one of these 3 criteria. Proposers, proposed budget is over the 20% allocated for phase 1, so you cannot exceed 90,000. Proposed budget is more than 30% of proposers' annual budget, or financial documents submitted demonstrate significant administrative or financial issues that would indicate an inability to effectively manage funds awarded under this RFP. And as discussed earlier, all of these conditions can apply to a particular applicant, so just be mindful of that. For proposers that advance to level 3, the information collected during level 2 may inform negotiations if recommended for award of the agreement. But for those, I've already discussed what the proposers may not advance if they don't meet those qualifications. Level 3 proposal review. Proposers that pass level 2 review will then proceed to level 3 review. Prior to beginning of the review, reviewers will be assessed for conflict of interest with the proposers, including subcontractors, and sign a conflict of interest form to certify that there are no conflicts of interest. Proposal reviewers will be scored using the review tool listed in Appendix E. The proposal review panel will be comprised of First 5 LA and Los Angeles County Department of Public Health staff. The reviewers will participate in a calibration meeting before finalizing the scores. Proposers scoring highly in level 3 will then proceed to level 4. For level 4 interview, highly scoring proposals from level 3 will then proceed to level 4. Only key personnel who will be implementing the proposed RFP can participate in the interview. Tentative interview dates have been included in the solicitation and are subject to change at First 5 LA's sole discretion. Interviews will be held either in person at locations in the community catchment area or via phone. The interview panel will be comprised of First 5 LA and the LA County Department of Public Health staff, as well as community representatives from each of the Help Me Grow LA Pathway community catchment area. First 5 LA does reserve the right to conduct interviews without the community representatives if these representatives do not attend the training and/or the interview. All reviewers will be assessed for conflict of interest with the proposers, including the subcontractors, and will sign a conflict of interest form certifying that there are no conflict of interest. Reviewers will participate in a calibration session before finalizing their scores, and further written material may be requested prior to or after the interview. First 5 LA does reserve the right to schedule additional interviews, meetings should additional questions arise. If necessary, we may conduct reference checks. If conducted, information obtained through a reference check will complement the results from level 4 interview. Additionally, past and current performance under a first 5LA agreement, if applicable, will inform the final decision of the award. The highest scoring proposer based on a combined level 3 and level 4 score in combination with any information obtained through the reference checks, if conducted, will be recommended to First 5LA Board of Commissioners for award of the agreement. This is the level 3 proposal review score sheet. It is Appendix E for your information. As far as required documents, applicants must submit all the required documents listed on the slide above through our online application process, which we will discuss shortly. We have also given you Appendix F, an application checklist, to ensure that you have provided a complete application. Omission of any document or form may constitute an incomplete proposal and may be grounds for disqualification. For the online application, we do have 7 communities, and there is a designated application for each of the community. Proposers should complete the online application and submit all required documents for the desired community that the proposer wishes to provide support to. Please note that you can apply to more than one Help Me Grow LA Pathway community. However, a separate application is required for each community. For the proposal narrative, we have this pretty cool document. So the proposal narrative does require that proposers address three key components: the community, approach, and accountability. Please see the solicitation for more detail as to what that entails. To support proposers with identifying what part of the community catchment area their collaborative will focus their efforts on, and partnership development, we encourage proposers to use the Help Me Grow LA Risk Indicator Heat Map tool, along with other data sources in drafting their proposals. The Help Me Grow LA Risk Indicator Heat Map, which you see the picture before you, uses population and risk factor data disaggregated by zip codes across LA County to illustrate geographical areas of higher need or vulnerability, which research demonstrates may be associated with poorer developmental outcomes. Please note that this tool does not indicate higher risk for developmental or behavioral delays. The heat map is overlaid by 3 geographical boundaries: regional centers, school district, and first 5LA Best Start communities. So for example, if you click on any zip code in Los Angeles County and see a cumulative risk score for that geographic area, a percentage of the population 0 to 4, the school district, and the regional center responsible for that zip code, and if a Best Start community overlaps that zip code, among other data points. Please refer to Appendix G for additional context and instructions on the heat map. We are encouraging proposers to use this tool as well as other data sources in order to inform partnership development and strategy identification. For the executive summary, this document will be reviewed by all reviewers. The target audience for the executive summary is the community representatives who will only be involved in the level 4 review. The proposer should keep this audience in mind when writing the executive summary to ensure that there's enough detail, but that the information is also presented in a manner that is appropriate to those who are not experts in this field. Additionally, we are including a translation waiver, mostly because our community members may also be inclusive of other audiences that are not solely English speakers. So keep that in mind, and that's why we included a translation waiver. For the letters of commitment, we are requesting these documents because they demonstrate the collaborative agency's agreement to participate in the collaborative, and it also helps define what their role will be. If you are submitting multiple letters of commitment, please save the letters in one document and upload the one document. For example, if you have 5 letters, you're only going to submit one document with all 5 letters, as opposed to 5 documents with 1 letter each. You actually physically cannot do that. So that's why we're asking you to merge everything into one document. For the organizational chart, we did want to point out what Appendix J looks like for your ease. For the scope of work, please note that we are asking you to complete a scope of work template describing key activities to carry out the major functions for year 1 or the initial 12-month agreement period for the project. You are encouraged to revise, expand, and otherwise edit the tasks in the Section 6 scope of work to enhance the project if they remain consistent with the overall purpose of the project and goals. For qualifications narrative, we would like to highlight more provide a listing of zip codes to which the unifying agency currently provides services to. This means where you're providing services currently. So in the proposal narrative, we are asking you there to identify what part of the community catchment area the collaborative will focus their efforts on, such as detailing the zip codes, neighborhoods, cities, and entire catchment areas. So the proposal narrative is where you will be discussing what you intend to focus on. There may be an overlap, but we are asking you for information in different areas. So I did want to clarify that. As far as the budget, our expectation is that the participating agency and as relevant collaborative agencies will contribute to the Help Me Grow LA Pathways investment through resource mobilization, including in-kind support and/or leveraging local, state, and federal funds, which is what the instructions state. We also wanted to provide additional guidance in budgeting the initial 12-month agreement period. Please note that for phase 1, we are looking up to 20% of the budget allocated, which is from $0 to $90,000. And for the budget narrative, it is expected that your budgets will, be clearly justified and appropriate for the work proposed, but we're also expecting a description of any leveraging of resources and funds, as well as any in-kind support. For the litigation and contract compliance form, if you check yes on any of the 1 through 10, please explain the circumstances and explain whether the circumstances that you just explained will impact the project of the solicitation. This instruction is listed in 2 areas, but don't forget, omission of the form will constitute an incomplete proposal and may be grounds for disqualification. So I encourage you to read those 2 sections. For the financial documents, if you are submitting multiple financial documents, we do encourage you to save all those documents into one and upload as one document. I'm not going to share the same example, but I think you get it. So for application submission, a lot in this slide is pretty important, but mostly failure to submit all required documents will constitute an incomplete proposal and may be grounds for disqualification. And the other important thing is proposals received after the deadline will not be considered. That is January 6, 2020, the future, at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So those, I would say, are the two most important things on this slide. Everything else is equally important, but please ensure and don't wait until the last minute to submit your application. First Five will not be responsible for any delays proposers may encounter with the online application system due to multiple users uploading the documents before closing time. First Five LA will also not be liable for any costs incurred in connection with proposers' preparation of a proposal in response to this RFP, and any documents submitted in response to this RFP does become property of First Five LA and is subject to a public disclosure. Addenda. Please check our Funding Center webpage regularly for any updates and addenda. We do reserve the right to amend the solicitation by written addendum if necessary. The website listed below is where we would put all that information. As far as timeline, we are here. We just completed our information session. Key dates of note are the networking events. They will be occurring from October 9th through November 8th. I will discuss them shortly again. The final date to submit questions and requests for additional information is December 13th, and we will have various rounds of posting responses to questions online. We do strive to respond to each question individually as well as collectively so that everyone has the same level of information. As discussed earlier, our proposal is due January 6th, 2020, 5 p.m. Interviews will happen in March, and our anticipated contract start date is July 1st, 2020. One more plug for the networking events. We highly encourage you or a representative from your agency to join any of the upcoming networking events to meet other interested partners in the community you serve and participate in interactive activities that will simulate the experience of being part of a Help Me Grow LA Pathway Collaborative. We are hosting the first two events, one in Wilmington on October 9th and Pacoima October 10th. First Five LA will be hosting 7 networking events, one event in each of the 7 communities that we intend to have a Help Me Grow LA Pathway community in. And to RSVP, please identify the zip code that your community may be based in. See Appendix A for a listing of all the zip codes. Step 2, fill out the RSVP Help Me Grow Pathway interest and networking form and select the community number based on your zip code. That's what the RSVP form looks like. It is amazing. Check it out. And we will place you on a brief hold while we review your questions to see what we can address during our time today. We have allocated 30 minutes or 25 minutes for any of the questions we can address today. If we cannot address your question, we will follow up in written form and post on our funding site. This is not your only chance to submit questions, and as detailed in the RFP, all questions should be submitted to the email address on the screen above, and all questions submitted either via the question box or through email will be included in the posting of the questions that's described in the RFP's timeline. So I'm going to put you on a brief hold while we look at everyone's questions. So one of the questions is, can you go over the unifying agencies, collaborative agencies and supporting agencies? This was a question that we went back to clarify a little further. We're gonna expand on it right now.
So in addition to reviewing the roles and responsibilities of the unifying agency, collaborative agencies, and partnering agencies, we wanted to direct everyone's attention to Appendix D, things to consider when selecting a partner. This is a document that was created to help agencies better understand and think through their collaboration's function, but more importantly, how to find the right partners and how to consider fit, if you're best suited as a collaborating partner, unifying agency, or supporting partner. So there's a series of questions within this appendix that is an exercise for agencies to go through, either independently or together if you're preparing to apply, to really help determine considerations for contribution and fit. So wanting to direct you to that. In addition, the appendix document, this tool also has questions to help you think through establishing a collaborative upfront.
So the next question that we're going to respond to is the $450,000 per year for the 3 years?
And the $450,000 is the total project cost, so it encompasses all 3 years.
Is the expectation that funding for the subcontract come from the same project budget indicated on page 23?
And on page 23, it indicates the $450,000 project budget. And yes, the subcontract budget comes from that.
To also clarify, by design, the intent was to safeguard a sizable portion of the grant or the investment to go towards implementing the strategies identified by the collaborative to strengthen and expand referral pathways among the collaborative agencies and partners, including the unifying agency. We recognize as shared that often state, federal, and local funds contribute and support the delivery of early identification and intervention activities and support. And so this investment is meant to add to or enhance existing services and supports along the EII continuum for the purpose of investing in those referral pathways.
The next question is, can organizations apply for more than one community? Yes, they can, but they do have to submit separate applications per community. Well, we're not necessarily sure the scope of this question, but you would need to submit an application applying as a unifying agency. To be a collaborative agency, you don't have to apply. We're only looking for unifying agency applications. The next question is the expectation that we submit 3 budget forms detailing the budget for all 3 years of the project?
We are asking in your application to submit a budget for the first 12 months of the project.
And to clarify, we are assuming the first 12 months may encompass phase 1. It doesn't have to overlap 12 months. Phase 1 could be done in a shorter period of time. However, we are looking for phase 1 to be outlined with recognition that the collaborative will need time to come together to refine the proposed strategies and focus. And then moving into phase 2, funding has been safeguarded within the grant to then implement the agreed upon strategies among the collaborative. So we're not looking for the budget for phase 2 and 3. That's safeguarded. We're focused on the budget for phase 1.
Just to clarify, the budgets for the first 12 months, it should at least reflect phase 1, and depending on your timeline, it may reflect other phases.
We're going to put you on a brief hold to review additional questions. So the next 2 questions are related, so I'm going to ask them together. Is there an anticipated TA contractor selection date, so people know when they can still apply for the RFP if they don't get the RFQ. And the next question is, where can we see the RFQ to be released for the TA provider? For the first question, we do anticipate releasing the RFQ fall of this year. Obviously, First Five does reserve the right to clarify the timeline as needed.
We have every intention of working to, as Daisy shared, release the RFQ while the RFP for the Help Me Grow Pathways application is open. We are anticipating having the TA RFQ submission deadline for a date that's in advance of the January 6th date. So we are hoping to ensure that agencies interested will then be able to look at both opportunities simultaneously and then apply to the TA should they have interest well in advance to the deadline for the Help Me Grow LA Pathways RFP, which the submission date is January 6th, 2020.
As far as where we can see the RFQ to be released for the TA provider, the RFQ will be posted on First 5LA's funding site. It will be a separate line item. It wouldn't be like included in the RFP. It will be its own separate category. I'm putting you on a brief hold to review more questions.
Also, when we are in a position to release the RFQ for the TA, we at First Five will also outreach and send that out to all parties on our listserv related to Help Me Grow LA. So those that are on our listserv who received the funding alert for the RFP will also see the funding alert related to the RFQ.
Putting you on a brief hold. There are a few questions that we are going to respond in written form. We do have your names, so for those who responded to those questions, we'll be getting a response individually. We will also provide the response for the rest of the group to review. And we do have 9 more minutes to go. If you have any additional questions, send them our way. We're here till 10:30. Yeah, so we're still here. Hi guys, we're 5 minutes and 5 more minutes for our question and answer period. Thank you for everyone who's sending questions. We greatly appreciate them. A lot of them we will respond in written form. The responses just require a little more detail than we can provide at this moment. Another shout out to our networking events. I'm just going to leave this up here so you guys can see. The first two do happen next week on October 9th and 10th, so we look forward to seeing you out there. Again, if this isn't your only chance to ask questions, you can always email them to me. We're actually also going to have space to collect questions at the networking event as well. So we have many forums to collect questions. The webinar, so next steps from today's event is we will be posting the webinar recording online on our funding site. We will also be posting the PowerPoint presentation, and we will be doing a series of postings of the questions and answers that have been emailed to me, as well as the questions that have been received during this info session as well. So keep the questions coming. We encourage them, and we thank you for coming to our event. We understand that it wasn't your traditional 1 hour, but we tried to provide all of the information in a concise manner that just hopefully made sense. And Christina, any comments, shout outs?
We're very excited about this opportunity and are looking forward to answering your questions and also interacting with some of you during the networking events.
Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
We still have 3 minutes.
Oh, we have 3 minutes.
We'll be here for the next 3 minutes, but just wanted to get our appreciation out there. So we have one question that says, will there be one TA provider per community?
We are looking for one TA provider that will provide assistance to all 7 communities. So we'll be working with all 7 communities.
And ideally in a position to identify common themes, common opportunities, as well as challenges that may be emerging across all 7.
So we are going to wrap up our info webinar for today. As discussed earlier, please check out our networking events. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is dortiz, O-R-T-I-Z, @first5la.org. And if you have any questions, please send them our way. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very appreciative and hope you have a great day. Bye.